The Citrus Bowl is here. Locked On Illini. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Illini. Today, we're going to be discussing the Citrus Bowl. The day is finally here. A reward for a 9-3 season for the Illini. It's been a date I've been waiting for a really long time. You know, it's kind of like the potential exclamation mark for this football team, which really, if you think about it, is one of the better football teams in recent memory, at least in the 2000s. When you talk about elite Illinois football teams, well, this team has the opportunity to win its 10th game on Tuesday. And if it does, well, then it's right up there with any other Illini team. But before I get started, my name is Sunny Verma. You're watching Locked On Illini. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do. I'm here making content for you every single day. Whatever your favorite social media is, do a quick search for Locked On Illini. Come say hello. Make sure you hit subscribe. All that fun stuff. Again, it costs you guys absolutely nothing, but it certainly does help the algorithm, this program, and sends it out to other Illini fans. Again, we're all celebrating today, so definitely hit the like button if you got some good vibes for the Citrus Bowl game on Tuesday. Usually when it comes to bowl games, especially in recent memory and maybe kind of in the near to distant future, these games don't matter much anymore. The only games that really matter are the college football playoff. When I was younger, 15, 20 years ago, the bowl games absolutely mattered. That's where rivalry started. That's where a lot of tradition took place. But now, in this day and age, a lot of players, again, if they're not competing for a national championship, you see a lot of them opting out, trying to take care of their professional needs and getting ready for the NFL draft. I don't know if that's necessarily the case on Tuesday between Illinois and South Carolina. I think, and obviously there's a little bias included here, but I think this is one of the better bowl matchups in the entire season. You're talking about two teams in some sort of way mirror each other. Both had a Vegas over-under of 5.5 this year, and both far surpassed those expectations, winning 9 games each. Now, South Carolina is the strong favorite. It was 10 yesterday. Right as I hit the record button today, it had gone down to 9.5. So obviously, SEC, they do have a lot of talent in that conference, and South Carolina is really no difference. Now, some of those guys are not going to be playing on Tuesday, which gives Illinois somewhat of an advantage, but Illinois is going to be without arguably their biggest playmaker in Pat Bryant. So, it's a game which I think is going to be very close, much closer than that 9.5 point spread, but it's a game where I think we can all sit back and just enjoy as Illinois fans, because there's zero expectations for Illinois winning. Every single pundit, and I'm not kidding, I did at least 15 minutes of Google searches and Twitter searches. Every single pundit, even the Illinois ones, are predicting Gamecocks victory against the Illini on Tuesday. And so I think that's just kind of the expectation. But what comforts me is that you can tell that Bret Bielema and the players are really not looking at this game in Florida as a vacation. They're looking at this as a business trip. Now, I mentioned Florida. There's 18 players on this Illinois roster from Florida, 12 of them being starters. So there's going to be a lot of friends and family in the crowd. This Illinois team are truly treating this like a business trip. I talked about Pat Bryant. He's not going to be participating, but essentially everyone else is. Xavier Scott is. J.C. Davis is playing. Gabe Jackus, from what I'm gathering, is playing. And I've even heard, as of recently, that Seth Coleman, who I thought was injured and was going to skip this game, possibly to prepare for the NFL draft, well, it looks like he's going to be playing as well. These guys are all playing because there's a, not to be cliche, but it's the family atmosphere, the culture that Bret has kind of put together here at Illinois, which is mean, how rare is it? We're in the end of December, and I've got a smile on my face talking about the upcoming Illinois bowl game. That very rarely has happened in my long lifetime as an Illini football fan. But it's a game I'm looking forward to watching. There's a couple guys we're going to have to be careful from the South Carolina side, and that's certainly their quarterback, Lenoris Sellers, the SEC Freshman of the Year. This kid is talented. He's the type of kid that Illinois historically struggles against, in the sense where he can win the game with his arm, but more so, he really makes plays with his legs. Now, the positive side to this is Illinois has played quarterbacks like that this season, and quite honestly, fared pretty well. We've done it against Daniels of Kansas, Aiden Childs from Michigan State. It's an offense that, or the type of quarterback which we've game planned for before, and the fact that the USC's star running back is going to be opting out of the bowl game because he's going to be going to the NFL means that there could be more pressure on Sellers to make some plays on Tuesday. So he's going to be by far the number one guy that you're going to have to just really kind of contain. Another thing, this South Carolina defense is really good. And I'm not even talking about, look, their best player on defense, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, he's not even playing. But still, this defensive line is kind of what we caught a glimpse of against Oregon, against Michigan. Now, Michigan, we handled pretty okay. Our offensive line wasn't necessarily our strong suit this year, but they did have some games where they stepped it up. And this is going to be a game where we're going to need them to step up. If Illinois is to not only potentially win this game, but to cover that 9.5-point spread, we're going to pretty much have to play mistake-free football. And the five guys up front are going to have to keep Luke upright so that he can find and make the plays that we need to make to win this ball game. And speaking of Luke Altmaier, obviously Pat Bryant gone. You still have Zachary Franklin there, but one of the things I'm looking forward to most about this game is to see who steps up next to Zachary. Transfer portal is still open for a couple more days, and there's been rumors that Illinois might be in the hunt for one more wide receiver, and some might wonder why, especially with a wide receiver room so young and talented as the one Illinois has is. Well, the logic makes sense. Next year, it's Luke Altmaier's final year as a college quarterback, and you want to make sure you maximize every opportunity to let him lead you to a top 3, top 4 Big Ten finish. And while the wide receiver room you have is talented, they're still young, and a lot of them are unproven. And so maybe someone will get the opportunity on Tuesday to step up next to Zachary Franklin and kind of grab the brass ring and say, hey, look, I'm ready. SEC defense, one of the best defenses in the country. If one of these young players steps up and really just takes on that role as a leading receiver, well, then maybe the necessity for finding another veteran guy kind of goes down the priority list by the coaching staff. But I think that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to. I started off this show saying, for the most part, bowl games don't matter. And maybe in the grand scheme of the college football world, this one doesn't. But I assure you that in that Illini locker room, in that South Carolina locker room, and between both fandoms, this game does matter. It's kind of a throwback to how football games used to be. I think you're going to see two very talented football teams really go at it. That elusive 10th win, I think, is going to be a really, really important one. And Brett knows he needs to get as much positive momentum going moving forward, because we won 9 games this year. The expectations are going to be even higher next season. And of course, with expectations, you need to make sure you're recruiting to your expectations. And so having, again, a 10-win Big Ten team hopefully will lead to better fruits on the recruiting trail down the road. My final prediction for the game, I'm going to say 31-27 South Carolina. I think this is going to be a very close game. I think Illinois is going to come just short, but it's going to be a great battle one of the better bowl games of the season. And I want to hear your guys' predictions. Do you guys predict Illinois to win? Come on. I want somebody in the chat or someone in the comment section tell me that you believe that Illinois is going to win. And if you do, and if you get it right, I'm going to give you a shout out on the post-game report. Speaking of the post-game report, I don't know if I'm going to go live immediately after like I have for every other football game and every other basketball game, just because I will be at a bowl watch party for the game itself. So the post-game report in this case will probably be coming on maybe a couple hours after the game. I will be doing it live though, so hopefully I can have you guys join me. And again, and if you haven't already, just make sure you hit that notification button. Make sure you've already liked this video and you're subscribed, and you won't miss a second. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, it's Tuesday. And so Tuesday, of course, if you're one of my everydayers, you know one of my every weekers is here on Tuesdays. Big Ten Ted. Ted, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to be here. A little bit busy, a little bit of a different setting here at work, but I always make time, certainly for this segment of Locked On Illini.
That's why you're one of our favorites. All right, so Ted, before we talk about the CFP, obviously the day this is going to be airing, Illinois is going to go up against South Carolina, two teams both striving for their 10th win. You have a Big Ten versus SEC battle, which, you know, of course, social media loves. Any thoughts on the game just from a high level?
Yeah, just a couple of quick bullet points. Of course, so no Pat Bryant, no Zachary Franklin in this game. So who's going to be that next wide receiver to step up? Some guys that we've seen this season, Malik Elzy, who's a sophomore on this team. Hank Beatty was kind of in the, in that rotation certainly as well. So who's going to step up as that guy that Luke Altmaier is going to be throwing the football to? I think that's certainly the big question for the other side. Lenora Sellers is a good mobile young quarterback. So how does Aaron Henry kind of structure this game plan and structure this scheme to kind of stop the mobility? Because I think that's something that could possibly hurt Illinois in this game. And we got it before, maybe our last bullet point. How about those script Illinois helmets, man? Those are going to be sharp. I said this on Twitter earlier this morning. I have never seen a script helmet that I haven't liked. And Illinois absolutely nailed it with that helmet design in this game. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. We all know about the about the running back position and what Lawfrey certainly brings in there as well. So I think this is one of the more competitive bowl games out there, right? A couple of 9-3 teams, Big Ten versus SEC in the Citrus Bowl. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think this one is going to be a lot of fun. But like I said, I think a big key is how do they kind of contain the mobility of Lenora Sellers in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, Ted. So I'll let you lead the charge. The college football playoff, the next round, will be starting on Wednesday. Which game would you like to talk about first?
Oh, man, I think we got to start in chronological order. How about a fiesta on New Year's Eve, man? It's the Fiesta Bowl. Going to be ringing in the new year with some Nittany Lions and Boise State Broncos football. The seeds might not be what you expect them certainly to be. Boise State, the 3, Penn State, the 6 going into this game, but Penn State, an 11.5-point favorite in this game right now. So this is, Penn State's been talking about it all year long and even maybe further going out a couple of years. James Franklin always said, they post on Twitter, they say it in the press conference, Minnesota, Maryland, right? They're hyper-focused on that particular week and not looking ahead. They might say, Boise. No, you say Genty. Has to be the tweet this week. It's got to be the focus. The focus with Ashton Genty has to be get him on the ground. Get him on the ground and don't let him, especially in the early downs, don't let him get those 6 to 8 yard gains. Make the rest of Boise State beat you. Makes Maddox Madsen at quarterback. Now, he's been solid this year, 22 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions, so he's taking care of the football. Former Indiana receiver Cam Camper leads them with over 800 yards this season. So you want to make that part to them beat you. And you just look, you're not going to stop Ashton Genty. Hey, props to you if you can. And Penn State's defensive line, I think, certainly has a big advantage over what Boise State has up front on the offensive line, certainly in this game. But this is a game where you need to focus on getting number 2 certainly on the ground, and they need to unleash Dome Drew. Drew Aller plays very well indoors, and I think you need to unleash that passing game. Boise State, they're in the triple digits as far as passing defense. They're much better against the run. So I think getting Tyler Warren open down the field, getting some of these receivers open down the field, I think there's going to be openings. Look, I think Penn State is they're just a much better football team. Like, this is a G5 team. You look at down the stretch for Boise State, they played some tight games in the Mountain West. Like, this is not a Boise State team where they blew everybody out, so that needs to be taken into consideration as well. But this is Boise State, and this is the Fiesta Bowl, okay? The nostalgia may be coming back from Oklahoma. What was that, 2007? Hook and ladders, Statues of Liberties. Penn State just can't get caught. They can't get caught maybe reading their own press clippings, listening to people like me telling them how much they're going to win by, right, and all of that stuff. They just can't get caught because Boise State, man, this is a team that I think they're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Penn State. It would not surprise me to see them do things a little bit differently, maybe take a deep shot or two early in this game, because I think they kind of look to the other side. I think Penn State's looking at this thing and they say, oh, what do we got to do to stop number 2? What do we got to start? Like Genty, right, that I talked about at the beginning. So maybe Boise State catches them off guard a little bit and they take a deep shot. So they just can't get caught if they play a disciplined game. I think they should win very comfortably in Arizona.
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, Boise State and Fiesta has some historical context when it comes to college football. But when I think of Penn State, last year I talked about how I thought 2024 would be the year of the Nittany Lions, having everyone a year older, Drew Aller heading into his junior year. This is a game, by all purposes, I think Penn State has to dominate. Similar to the way their last game, it's just one of those where if they are to be taken seriously to win the national championship, I think they need to not just squeak by. They need to be able to show that, hey, we're here. We're here to compete against the Oregons. We're here to compete against the Texases, the Ohio States, and whatnot. Just for James Franklin's own reputation, and just because of the cloud that comes with Penn State football. But it's the other football game that I'm very interested in, and I'm going to ask you a question after you're done previewing the game for us.
Okay, it's the granddaddy of them all. It is the Rose Bowl, man. It is Big Ten versus Big Ten. It is a rematch from the best college football game of the year back on October 12th, the Oregon Ducks and the Ohio State Buckeyes. When this type of game and this type of big in Pasadena, it makes me think back to my childhood. It makes me think back to Keith Jackson kind of calling some of these games. It makes me miss it a little bit, but man, he would love this type of atmosphere. And that setting the stage would be fantastic, certainly with his voice. But this is going to be a fantastic matchup. It's a matchup game. There's so much NFL talent on the football field here between the Oregon Ducks and the Ohio State Buckeyes. When there's that much NFL talent and everything's that close, look, it was a 1-point spread at Autzen Stadium in October. It's all about execution, right? It's all about, okay, who's going to win this specific battle, right? Is this receiver going to get a step or two on a defensive back and catch a deep ball? You have a pulling guard. Is he going to be able to get there in time to kick out a linebacker? Like all of these little execution things. This is what it certainly comes down to in this game. And, both of these offenses, I think, when we've seen this over the years, like you and I, we grew up with this game certainly being at the top of our minds. And we've seen it time after time after time. when you have this stage, Pasadena Rose, it is a fast track. Offenses play their best in Pasadena, California. And I think we're going to see a lot of scoring in this game. You saw the last time Oregon's defense was out, they gave up a good amount of yards and a good amount of points. Let's just put it that way against Penn State, certainly as well. The last time, of course, in this matchup back on October 12th, Oregon had Dylan Gabriel had 343 yards passing. They were able to really get it up and down on the Buckeyes. So I think we're going to see a lot of offense, certainly, in this football game. And when you talk about offense, you got to talk about the field generals. You got to talk about the quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard. This is just me personally, I tend to trust Dylan Gabriel a little bit more in this type of game, this type of environment, this type of spot than Will Howard. You look at games this season where Ohio State and Oregon, respectively, were favored by a lot, okay, and they didn't play their best game. Will Howard threw 2 interceptions, and he came up short against Michigan. Dylan Gabriel and Oregon found a way to win against the Wisconsin Badgers in that game at the end of the season. And then when you just look at their playmaking ability, I think I favored Dylan with that as well. Like, he's so good with his legs this season. And I wouldn't call him a runner per se, but he's so good at creating that second pocket, that second opportunity on a passing play, evading the rush. Now, it helps that Oregon has probably the best pass protection in all of college football with those 2 great offensive tackles. But man, it's just impossible to bring him down. And if Dylan Gabriel has a clean pocket in this game, I think Oregon can go nuts again. I think the trenches are going to tell the tale of the way this one certainly goes, because the trenches to me in this game are like an earthquake, right? We know the line of scrimmage is like the fault line, right? But there's so much that kind of reverberates off of it as well. Like if Johnny Cornelius and Josh Connerly at the tackles, I think that they have a matchup advantage over Ohio State's pass rush. If they give them time, now all of a sudden Denzel Burke, Davison Igbinosun, and these defensive backs, they have to cover 2.5, 3 seconds down the field. And what did we learn in that Penn State game? Ted Johnson's hard to cover. Trayshawn Holden's hard to cover. Kenyon Sadiq, who had 2 touchdowns from the tight end position, he's extremely hard to cover as well. It's just with all of the weapons that Oregon can put out on the football field, I just think, if they have pass protection, if Dylan Gabriel's time, it's going to be tough. You look to the other side, everybody was kind of, before that Tennessee game, they were kind of going after Ohio State's offensive line, right? No Seth McLaughlin, no Josh Simmons. Tennessee with James Pierce as a great front. Ohio State kind of dominated up front, didn't they? Yeah. Didn't they? They did pretty darn good. So, and that's exactly what they need to generate those explosive plays down the field. Now, watch out, Oregon. And I didn't mention this in my preview, but I'll give you a little extra tidbit here, Sonny. I'll give you a little extra credit, certainly, on this one. So, the last time we saw Oregon, they gave up nearly 300 yards against Penn State. I'm very curious to see what happens with Ohio State in the run game, because in theory, Ohio State maybe should be able to run the football, right? Kind of like Penn State was able to do. But the last time we really saw Ohio State invest in the run game against good defensive tackles, Michigan happened. I still think that they're going to look to create explosive plays, certainly down the field. But Oregon, how is their defensive line going to play? Because they certainly need to play a better defensive line game than they played against the Penn State Nittany Lions. There's so many interesting matchups. I think discipline decides it. Trenches may tell the tale, but I think discipline decides it. Turnovers, penalties. When you have a game where these offenses can go up and down the field, if you can make one stop, if you can make one turnover, take a possession away, that is everything in a game like this. I tend to favor the Oregon Ducks in this matchup because I think they have a quarterback that I can trust a little bit more. And look at their defense. In these tight games, their defense has come up with one stop multiple times. Now, an offensive pass interference, a sliding Will Howard certainly helped them out against Ohio State. But look at the Wisconsin game. Mateo Uiagalelei came up with an interception to seal the deal. Look at the Penn State game. Nico Reed going up and making a play on Drew Aller. Their defense has come up just one play in key situations in big games. It's going to be an awesome game.
So I'm curious, between the two teams, obviously, arguably the 2 most talented teams in college football, but coaching staffs at the end of the game, close game. Let me ask you a question. Which coaching staff do you trust more?
Well, I think that has to go in with the discipline, right, as well. Here's what I will say. Dan Lanning has shown time after time after time he's going to be very aggressive, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to a 4th and short in a key situation, he's going to go for it. I think what we've seen over the course of this season as well, when it comes to coaching wise, I like a lot of people just after this Tennessee game, they want to forget Michigan happened. And I understand that, and I understand that way of thinking. But to me, it's kind of still a little bit, teeny bit in the back of my mind. I tend to favor what this Oregon staff is right now. You know, we'll see. We'll see what kind of game plan Chip Kelly can go out with, because it's interesting with Chip. Like, he had probably his worst game plan followed by his best game plan. Yeah. So what is this game plan going to look like? Is it going to be somewhere in the middle? Is it going to be good again? Is it going to be not good? Oregon has just been, from a coaching perspective, they've just been steadily consistent. I think the whole year. Michigan, of course, has had a little bit of down periods, but I think both of these coaching staffs are certainly fantastic. Chip Kelly, of course, has a lot of, of course, he has a lot of that head coaching experience in college and the NFL. I think the experience advantage maybe goes to Ohio State, and maybe that experience being in these situations certainly goes. Maybe that's something that favors the Buckeyes, but I just think that Dan Lanning and this Oregon staff, I just think they're on a mission. I just think that this is a team on a mission. Ohio State is a favorite. I think a lot of people out there, because like what I just said, everybody's just throwing Michigan out the window, and they're looking what happened against Tennessee. Oregon is a much better team against Tennessee, and now some people are saying, well, Ohio State favorite looks like they're back on track, and they're going to be they're going to advance. Dan Lanning is a master motivator. For sure. He is going to twist that, he is going to spin that, and he is going to have these guys ready with their hair on fire coming out. So I could certainly see coaching certainly going in both directions, but maybe just a little bit towards the side of Oregon.
Yeah, I'm going with Ohio State only because in our preview episode, which you did with me, I predicted Oregon to win the regular season matchup and Ohio State to win what I thought was going to be the follow-up in the Big Ten championship. Turns out, obviously, that didn't work out. So this is the next matchup. So just for prediction purposes, I have Ohio State winning. I'm not going to ask you your prediction, but Ted, I'm going to ask you, is the winner of this game the national champion?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, at least the favorite to continue to win the national championship. Like, I haven't been overly impressed with Texas this season. That is the potential. I know this is not Big Ten related. Watch out for Kenny Dillingham. Watch out for Arizona State. That's a team that nobody is giving any chance.
Right.
Arizona. I'm not saying Arizona State is going to pull the upset. I'm just saying watch out for it to be closer maybe than some folks think out there. But, I just haven't been overly impressed with Texas. They're a really good football team. I think Ohio State and Oregon are more talented than them right now. I looked as well to the bottom half of the bracket. Notre Dame, Georgia, Penn State. I think just in the end, Oregon and Ohio State, they've been the most talented teams in college football all year. Right. So it makes sense that the winner of this game certainly is the championship favorite. So I think that's the way it's going to be following this one.
All right, Ted, before I let you go, let the audience know where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Big Ten Ted over there. Also on YouTube and audio platforms, Spotify and Apple. So got a lot of fun stuff here coming up.
Best in the world, Ted. See you next week.
All right. Sounds good.
And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Illini. I hope if you're watching this game before the game, I do hope you get to sit back, you get to relax and cheer on our Illini as they strive for win number 10. We don't get seasons like this very, very often being Illinois football fans. And so that's why, again, all episode long, I've had a smile on my face. I'm really proud of the players on this team. I'm really proud of the coaching staff here. This has been easily one of my most favorite, memorable seasons I've had in my lifetime. And it's my hope that this the trajectory continues to go on up for this football team. So again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button for the good vibes for the football game. And also make sure you're subscribed. That's very important. Again, it helps with the algorithm of this show. That's all I'm going to have for you today. Again, I'm going to have a post-game show for you after the game. It just may not be immediately after the game like I usually do. So just make sure you've hit that notification button and you won't have to worry about missing a single second of the post-game. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.